Well, this morning I'm here. I find it hard to say Gedling Country Park without wanting to smile because these places, and especially Gedling Country Park, it's not really anything like you'd call the countryside. Like so many country parks, this one has been taken over by the public, and that's what it's been entirely geared at all along, especially since its inception a number of years ago. Oh, how they were going to give so much to the people. In the end, they've given bugger all. Now, before I get into the means and wherefores and everything about this place, there are some good bits to it. Usually those bits like this, well away from where the majority of the public that visit this site come to. Years ago, this place had some astonishing birds. Top of the hill, which is now a solar farm, gives about enough power to light somebody's cigarette, I think. That played host to the first twitchable Lapland bunting in Nottinghamshire a number of years ago. I had snow bunting there as well, and just where I am now at the back here, there was a ditch, and one evening I had a female ring ouzel drop down out of the sky, stop on its way north, take up residence in this ditch. It was still there the following morning when I called in on the way to work. It's also had rough-legged buzzard, numerous short-eared owls. It's had some great birds. Potentially would have had a lot more. Then they turned it into a country park, landscaped it, and pretty much ruined it. Barely 11 o'clock in the morning, and both car parks here are nearly rammed. It's an incredibly popular place. Purely a place to walk the dogs. Nobody comes here to record the wildlife. Those that did stopped years ago, before or during the landscaping process. 15-20 years ago, Gedling Colliery, or the former Gedling Colliery, was one of our untouched pit tops. It was a super sight. This bank in front of us here was like an Arctic tundra, and so was this area just on your left, which held a very shallow, partially filled lagoon. You'd get the odd wader there, but that's where I had Lapland bunting and snow bunting, amongst other things. Those days are long gone. I've just found this viewing platform. Gives a good view of up the Trent Valley. But how much did this cost? All this metalwork. It's a perfectly good hill that I'm standing on. Still see the same view. I'd like to see that money go into conservation or some wildlife project on site. It's just an example of how much Gedling Country Park is totally geared towards the members of the public. Anything that it gives to wildlife is pretty much secondary. Well, here on the eastern side of the solar farm, there's a bit of habitat that's been created. Got a small area of shallow water just there, and there's a bit that's been dug out here that's not filled in yet, but there's quite a bit of Phragmites reed here. This is quite a bit how it used to look. This is the kind of habitat that you got on Gedling Pit Top. This is where the top lagoon used to be. It was only ever partially filled, and in order to get partially filled it had to rain quite a lot. While ever you could access it, even though the site was private and technically there was no access, you needed heavy rain in order to put any real water into the lagoon. Just at the back over there was the site where I flushed the twitchable Lapland bunting. That was a mega, that was. And snow bunting. I had snow bunting on the edge of the lagoons. The lagoon used to be several piles of earth mounds, and I used to sit on top of one of them. I sat on one of them one afternoon or early evening, and a female snow bunting flew underneath me. But one of my greatest and most fondest birding memories occurred while I was sat here. It didn't involve anything particularly rare, but it's the only time I've ever seen such a bird. And again, it was a lovely evening. Late summer, if I remember right. I can't remember the actual date, but it was a beautiful evening. There wasn't a great deal about, and I was just sat overlooking the lagoon. I saw something fly in and land on the mound about 20 feet from me. And it was a juvenile cuckoo. Sort of sat looking at each other for a minute, and then off it went. It carried on south. It was one of those unique wildlife moments that you occasionally get once or twice in your natural history lifetime. It all looks very nice. But years ago there used to be a lot more of it to look nice, because when this area, Gedling Country Park, was first designated as a country park, it covered an enormous area. That area covered all that you can see down there, apart from a few fields alongside the old Arnold Lane. They've all gone. This is where the public fell for Gedling Borough Council's dangling carrot. They thought they were getting something. Really, they didn't. Gedling Borough Council just dangled a country park in an effort to prove how green they were. They also put in these solar panels just to show that and confirm it. The public fell for it all hook, line and sinker, but what Gedling Borough Council were really after, building land. Once again, the planners raised their ugly heads. The trouble is that all you can see now, all the development, the new road linking Mapley Plains with Burton Joyce, who was a very nice couple by all accounts. It was all just a ruse. Give the public a country park and then we'll take most of it off them. All that down there where the new road is, and behind it where all the houses are going and all the future development is still yet to come, it was all just part of Gedling Borough Council's carrot. If I remember my figures correctly, there's upwards of 1,000 houses going in this area. All that you can see there was once fields, and former pit top. There was some brilliant habitat, and they're your typical pit top habitat. Excellent for a whole range of invertebrates, but also birds and mammals. All of it is to go. So much of what was originally stated as a country park and that the public fell for is now gradually being whittled off. It's all wanted for housing, and that includes all the way up they're even after Mapley Golf Course, the last I heard, which you can glimpse amongst the trees towards the horizon there. Even the old coal wharf, which is right on the very right of your screen, you may be able to see the houses on the top there. That's all gone, and that's all built on former slurry heaps. Slurry heaps of our former collieries must be the most unstable building land you could ever stick a house on. I can't understand it myself. I really can't. I wouldn't buy a house on former colliery site for love nor money. I think that the majority of these houses will probably have cracks developing in them within another 10 years. I don't care what they say. Former pit top land is extremely unsafe for building. I've just seen this. I thought we were a bit uncivilised in North Nottinghamshire in the Mansfield area, but we're nothing compared to this. That must be where they burn those people that don't pay the council tax here in Gedling. I found a reasonable quiet spot. Gedling Country Park is that overrun with people, you can't find a quiet spot hardly, unless you go right off the beaten track. This is one of the best bits. This is a south-facing grassy bank. It's the southern part of the old former spoil heap. Quite steep, so if you're a wheezy wanderer like myself, stay on the flat bits. This area, at least the bottom part of this area, is one of the sites where I found Green Hare Street when Dillis and I were doing an invertebrate survey here targeting Dingy Skipper. Finding Green Hare Street here was actually the first time I'd seen it in Notts, but it was a real surprise and quite a find. Green Hare Street is still quite rare in Nottinghamshire. It's not budged or moved into another 1 kilometre grid square for a number of years. It's quite worrying considering the available habitat. We found Dingy Skipper to be in numbers all along the line of where the road is now, and at least this side of the road. It was your typical post-industrial colliery site, full of birdsfoot trefoil and other nectar-bearing plants, and it was ideal for Dingy Skipper. And we found it everywhere. In the report that we published and presented to Gedling Borough Council, we stipulated that there was no real need to do any major work to maintain the Dingy Skipper here. Habitat could be created, suitable habitat could be created on any of the embankments either side of the new road. I think that's what they've done. If they have, it's probably the first time anyone's ever listened to me. But Dingy Skipper is widespread on all pit tops in Nottinghamshire. That's done really well. Grizzled Skipper, on the other hand, is still stuck on disused former railway lines in the southeast of Nottinghamshire. Green Hare Street was making some progress, as I mentioned, but seems to have stopped despite the abundance of pit top habitat, and that being ideal. Why Dingy Skipper's done so well and the likes of Green Hare Street, which uses the same food plan, hasn't, something of a mystery. In effect, the public, the Nottinghamshire public, have been given very little. It may be a country park in name, but that's about it. As far as I'm aware, most of those people that do study insects in Nottinghamshire and that used to come here regularly have all stopped. They don't like what it's become. Pretty much like everywhere, I suppose. It's just a glorified dog walking spot or a jogging spot. And since they put a cafe in, it's just a meeting spot. People walk around this place gawping at their phones, nattering non-stop. I've yet to see anybody that takes any element of countryside in at all. I say countryside because it's fast disappearing. More of that is to come. That's only the first phase of building here. Now they've closed the old Arnold Lane, they can start work on more housing. Then there's a school, I believe, to go in. Shops down the mall. Well, that was Gedling Country Park. We'll be coming here again in a month or 6 weeks' time when Green Hare Streets are out and about. Never seem to be here in any numbers though, so if I find, like today, this place is too crowded for me, we'll be looking on the old former Calverton colliery site. I can't say that I've particularly enjoyed this visit. I say, it doesn't seem countrified at all. One of the best things of the morning though was down at the end of this car park. My first blackcap singing away. It appears to have stopped. Never mind, the old chiff chaffs continued to go for it.